This is part two of Out of the Blue. After practice, Clark goes over to the batting cage. They threw three pitches at him. Each ball hit the top of the cage. Coach then had his best pitcher throw three balls at him. The first pitch hit a car in the parking lot. The second pitch he missed. The third went over the parking lot into the street. Coach Frank was amazed. Frank says to Clark, if he wants to play baseball next season, Clark smiled. 3 weeks into the football season, the team had a away game in Kentucky. Clark went home to visit his parents. Clark was playing catch with his dad. Clark asked, were they coming to the game? His dad looked at him. We can't afford the tickets. Clark reached into his back pocket and pulls out 5 tickets to the game. His dad leaped for joy. Why so many? Clark said maybe someone would take you guys for a ticket. On the day of the game, Clark had 6 carries for 51 yards. Up by 21 in the middle of the third quarter, Clark got a call to go in. When the game was over, Clark had 12 rushes for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. As the season went on, Clark got playing time every game. At the end of the season, Clark had 112 rushes and 572 yards and 7 touchdowns. They were 6-6 and missed the playoffs. March rolled around and Clark got a knock on his door. It was Coach Frank. Clark greeted him and he says, practice is tomorrow and a scrimmage in 3 weeks. Clark was a little hesitant. Coach put his hand on his shoulder and said, pray on it. Clark looks at Coach and says, can we pray now? Coach says, sure. They prayed and then Coach left. The next day, Clark showed up to practice. He could catch and run down fly balls. They put him at the center field. Every day, Clark amazed the coaches and players. It was the day of the scrimmage, and the coach had a surprise for Clark. In the bottom of the fourth inning, he is hearing his mom's voice. Top of the fifth, Clark is at bat for the second time. The first pitch, crack. The ball landed in the parking lot. At the end of the game, Clark walks out of the school. He had little action at center field, but had 2 hours and 2 home runs and a triple. As his parents approach him, Coach Frank calls out to Clark. To his surprise, his mom and dad was there. Coach flew them out to watch him play his very first baseball game. When June came around, football practice started. Coach Frank released Clark to start football practice, and Clark would show up to the games. The schools went deep into the playoffs, and Clark ended the season with 54 home runs and 3 errors. The draft came around, and Clark was drafted by Baltimore in the 5th round. Mind you, he's a sophomore. Clark wanted to graduate. He stayed in school. That football season, Clark rushed for over 1,000 yards as he shared the backfield. That summer, Clark helped his team go to the College World Series. As a junior, Coach Leo had Clark in the backfield full time. That year, Clark broke the school rushing record with 1,900 yards rushing. The school made the playoffs. Clark set the touchdown record with 29 rushing and receiving. Because of his workload, Clark took half of January and all of February off to recover for baseball. Clark was reduced to pitch hitting. He only had 25 home runs, and his batting average was around 493. Clark, when interviewed, he started off with "God gives me the strength." When asked what you tell the next generation, Clark would say, "Have a prayer life with God." Clark was drafted to play football by Tennessee in the third round. Remember, Baltimore drafted him to play baseball. He went home after graduation. Clark told his parents about his dilemma. They prayed. Then Sunday they went to church and asked for more prayer. Monday morning, the GM of Baltimore called to make him an offer. There were 5 zeros in that offer. On Wednesday, Clark got a call from Tennessee. They had traded him to Washington. On Friday, the GM called and offered him $50,000 to be on the practice squad. Clark signed with Baltimore and with Washington. He showed up to practice in Washington. He played minor league until the season was over. After 3 years on the practice squad, Clark was let go. He had 3 productive seasons in Baltimore. He averaged 40 home runs in those 3 seasons and was batting at a .333 average. Clark started a sports camp back home in Kentucky. He built a sports complex that included a 15,000-seat stadium. Thousands of kids came from all over to enter his camps. Clark employed former pros that were believers to help out. Clark is 80 now, and his grandsons run the camp. Until this day, from out of nowhere, the football star became a baseball star. We never know what God has in store for us. Many children were led to Christ at his camp. This is part 2. If you noticed, part 2 was much longer, but it's okay. You never know what God has planned for you, because some of you have a special gift that God can use to lead people to Christ. I'm out.